serious, what is an open secret in your industry, profession or similar group, which is almost completely unknown to the general public? I work in engineering and the phrase "it's not perfect but we gotta ship something out next week" is said for just about everything at some point. Don't buy the first revision of anything. Construction workers do not hoot at women. We lift stuff a lot and eat in sadness. I was thinking recently that of all the people to hoot at me, construction workers have never done it. It makes me happy. I like construction workers. Don't get construction workers wrong. We are definitely looking at you and talking to each other about the things we would do that would most likely violate the Geneva Convention. But we ain't got the time to hoot and holler at you. I used to work for a magazine years ago and I used to write the advice column, which was funny enough since I was about 23 and had zero qualifications to be giving anyone any advice about anything. But what makes it even funnier to me is that I also wrote the letters asking for advice. Who has a problem and sits around thinking, I know, I will write a letter to some magazine and ask them for help? The answer is no one. I had this suspicion when I was 13. I loved reading young teen magazines back then. And one day I bought the first ever issue of a brand new magazine. The magazine had been advertised for just a couple of weeks. You could find addresses for it nowhere before the first issue was already out. Lo and behold, the advice pages were already full of answered letters. I suddenly realized all advice columns ever in all magazines of the world were sadly fake. Surgeon here. All surgeons make mistakes while operating. Any surgeon who doesn't is either not operating enough or lying. It always blows my mind when people act like a surgeon doctor making a mistake somehow means that doctor deserves to lose all his money, lose his career, and go to jail. Obviously standards are higher since they could, you know, kill someone. But to act like there's the slightest possibility that they never make mistakes is just nuts. Retail worker. If something isn't on the shelf, unless it's on ad or there's a special coupon for it, there's a 90% chance that we don't have any in the bag. And if you ask us to look in the bag, there's an 80% chance that we'll go back there, stand around, bullshit with other co-workers for a few minutes, only to come back out and say OMG I'm so sorry but we're completely out of that. Turn it off and on again isn't some kind of comedy gag at your expense. It really does solve 90% plus of all known home user IT problems. The other 10% are solved by making sure it's definitely plugged in. Soldier here. Everyone knows that the government wastes money, but you have no idea how much the army will spend on a vehicle that will quite possibly never get used. If you ever drive on a base and see the lineup of heavy armored vehicles that look brand new, it's because they probably haven't moved since they got them. This. Plus the military has no concept of investment, meaning that it will gladly make the decision to save $1 million now, but pay $10 million down the line for maintenance, upgrades, training, whatever, rather than pay $5 million now and actually save money over time. This bad practice is compounded by the fact that they will often refuse to scrap the poor investment until well after it's run over budget. Sunk cost is a concept that is completely lost on the military. That there's a startling number of lawyers who are absolutely, totally incompetent. I mean drug and alcohol addicted and or barely literate incompetent. Courts don't call them to account, and often tacitly cover up for them. Lawyers have to screw up spectacularly and repeatedly to get disbarred. Corporate accountant. The amount of control I have over how much money the company makes or loses on paper is huge. A bad accountant says 2 + 2 is 5, a good accountant says 2 + 2 = 4, and a great accountant asks what you want 2 + 2 to equal. Ducking this, I can do amazing things with expense categorizations, overhead allocation, and appreciation methods. Most people don't realize that financial documents only convey a message, and that message may be different depending on who is reading it. I had someone tell me that ideally you want to show the government you are losing money, show liquidity coverage to your lenders, and show growth to your shareholders. All of those things can be altered depending on COGS and overhead allocation. ducking love finance. I was an aviation electrician for 10 years. All it takes to cause a catastrophic failure in an aircraft is a piece of debris smaller than a penny. There's a reason that people from the aviation industry tend to be absolutely null retentive when it comes to tools and machine cleanliness. Not that this is secret, but people don't know. I'm a social worker on Long Island, NY. One of the most expensive places to live in the USA. Guess what we generously, compared to a number of states, give to welfare recipients? Food stamps, a max of $180 person month. Public assistance, $150 month. Rental assistance, unchanged since 1976, $450 month family. A single room apartment around here goes for at least $1,200. BTW. That's it. That's all. I can't stand people complaining about people getting rich off welfare. Honestly. Anyone who puts tons of effort into defrauding the system isn't gonna get much. You'll never get older nurses monitoring your breathing. I could be pretending to take your pulse again or something else distracting. But if you know I'm monitoring your breathing, you'll breathe differently. I'm breathing differently after reading this. Librarian here. 99% of the time your late fines can be waived. But only 1, if our boss isn't around, and 2, you're nice to us and don't abuse the privilege. I'm a nurse. We give morphine to dying patients more or less as assisted suicide. Having watched both my parents die, may I be the first to say, bless you and thank you for your service. I hope someone does this for me at the end. Thrift store worker here. No. We don't wash everything before we put it out. People think we have massive industrial washers in the back. Nope. Those guys that do the speed paintings in front of large audiences have the entire thing drawn out. They always paint on a dark canvas and then lightly sketch out the main areas. If you get close you can see the faint marks. All the way out in the audience it just looks like a black canvas. It's still a pretty neat trick to do it that fast. Teacher here. It always surprises people that 90% of my job has nothing to do with kids and more to do with paperwork and dealing with other bureaucratic crap. Seriously considering leaving the profession because after several years of teaching, I can say that that part of the job gets worse each year. There's too much work and not enough people to do it. Our pay attracts a lot of apathetic people, making it difficult to get good work out of them. Quality workers see the workload and move on after a year. Funny thing is, if we had more quality workers, it would be an easy ducking job with decent salary for the responsibility. State Gov agency. This is very regional. But here in southwestern Ontario, there is a home builder company called Empire. Right now they are building in Binbrook and Brantford. The houses are sheet 2-year-old houses with foundations cracked, shingles on the roof needing replacing, and driveways sunk where you park. Drywallers often aren't given enough drywall, so they get the tapers to tape huge sections of the house, and the mudders to mud over the tape and they call it drywall. The trusses they use to actually build the place are left out in the rain and snow. We exist. Seriously. I work for a supplemental insurance company. Most people have no clue that we are an option, and major medical companies like it that way. A lot of criminal defendants come into the public defender's office thinking they'll receive quality personal assistance, when in fact, the system is overloaded and the attorneys are just trying to sort through cases as quickly as possible. The defense, district attorney, and judge are in constant contact with each other to make the process go as fast as possible. All those TV shows that dramatize rivalry in the courtroom are exaggerating. Defense attorneys and prosecutors are usually very friendly with each other because of all the time they spend collaborating. Corrections officer here. The worst COs are the ones you see in movies, TV shows, the big juiced up roid monkeys that bully inmates all day long or are bricks because they get off on it. They will heat up a unit, resulting in ducking headaches for their co-workers, and are hated more so by fellow COs than inmates themselves. The best are the ones that are emotionally mature, thick-skinned, temper-controlled, who can talk to an inmate first, and active, keyword, if they have to do so. In other words, they have respect from inmates because of that, which will defuse a situation before any words are said. Being physically built has little to do with anything, but respect will go 100 miles and another if needed. I'm a 150-pound guy with glasses who reads comic books and plays video games on his days off, who gets called Harry Potter by inmates, but am able to tell someone to lock up while looking them in the eyes, and passed my physical training with flying colors. Oh. And talking about comic book movies with fellow nerds in prison is a highlight of my job. Pilots really don't care about your connection, and getting in on time is secondary next to safety. We're just concerned about getting there safely. If there's weather, something not right, etc., we'll rather delay the flight and fix it than try to get there on time and risk the lives of everyone on board just so you can make your business meeting. Or so you can catch your connecting flight to Hawaii. True. No one likes delays. And we're suffering as much as you are. But I'll take a delay rather than being in the air and wishing I'd given the time to fix the issue. I'm a chemist with a biochemistry background. This isn't exactly related to my career, but a gluten-free diet does absolutely nothing for you unless you have celiac disease, gluten allergy. The only reason people on a gluten-free diet see any benefit is because they are usually eating healthy regardless of whether or not they consume gluten. Model and make. If you're a bigger Abercrombie and Fitch, male, model, you've definitely had Bruce Weber's big dig in your mouth. Edit, added male because Bruce Weber is gay and plays with his models' big digs. Pilot. We talk about women when flying, and about flying when with women. If we're talking about flying when flying, start worrying. Should women be worried if you talk to them about women? Any product you buy from a hairdresser in a salon is almost certainly 100% markup from the original price. We buy a $5 product, you get charged $10 or even $15 for shampoo, conditioner, etc. This is commonly accepted practice in salon industries. Oh. And that hair color you paid $100 for your stylist to do? Other than her time and skills, hair color costs the stylist about $7 to do your hair. Cheaper if you're getting just highlights. Gas station attendant here. If the temperature outside is above freezing, the windshield washing fluid with the squeegees is just water. I work in the beer draft beverage industry. Depending on where you live in the country, you might be appalled at how many of your favorite drinking spots have never cleaned or changed their beer lines in the 5, 10, 20 years they've been open and pouring from the same draft system. I have pulled stuff out of beer lines that would probably make you gag. Some states actually regulate it as a part of the state health code, which they totally should. This is food we're talking about here. But many states do not. And thus a vast majority of restaurants and bars in those states do not to clean them. Either out of ignorance that bacteria, biofilm, beer stone, and yeast build up over time and affect the taste and pour of the beer. Or simply because they see pouring out beer to run cleaning solution through the lines as wasteful. The irony of that is that it is far more wasteful to have a dirty beer line than it is to clean one. Dirty lines foam up because agitation occurs when the beer runs over that gunky stuff. So, next time you are at your favorite drinking spot that has a draft system, ask the bartender when the last time the lines were cleaned. If she says what? Or I'm not sure, don't drink from that system. All companies that service beer lines keep logs with the bar's restaurants they clean. I work in marketing and search engine optimization. Everything you pay us to do you can do yourself for free. YouTube can teach you every facet of the industry in a few days if you're willing to take the time to learn. There are a lot of really bad programmers out there. Security is one of the least understood facets of software. Music industry is 80% office work, 10% travel, if you're lucky, and 10% overworked office workers who party too much. Also, there's always someone buying drinks. Backstage at a rock show is one of the most boring scenes ever. Hookers and blow are a thing of the past, my friends. It's all corporate back here.